Hi, I'm Movie Cat, and you are watching Fantastic Crap. You know, my favorite action subgenre has always been the buddy action adventure film. Buddy cop movies fit into that as well, of course. Yes, they are all usually generic and follow the same tried and true formulas and cliches. But when you are a huge fan of this stuff, most of the time you lovingly embrace it. In the magical year of 1989, Leno and Pat Morita joined forces for the buddy cop comedy actionaire Collision Course. Its production was plagued with problems from the start, beginning with the firing of the original director attached to the film, to the final day of filming when the film completely ran out of money. The film came and went and fell into the shadows of obscurity, and much like Bill Cosby with Leonard Part 6, Jay Leno hates the film and has went on to bash and make fun of it several times. Well, guess what will surprise no one? I actually like the film. I think it's funny and entertaining, with some great character actors doing what they do best. So it's time to do what I do best. Shine some light on a forgotten and underrated gem, and bring it a bit of attention that it deserves. Wow. So get ready to spit out your best one-liners, and practice on your banter and squabbling, while preparing for some brawls and gunfights. It's time to take a look at the buddy action comedy Collision Course. And instantly, the movie begins by letting you know that you are watching a car wreck, just a step down from a train wreck. The scene introducing us to Jay Leno's character, Tony Costas, has him getting into a street race for some pizza and $10, in which he gets stopped by police, and it's then revealed he is a cop himself, and he then pretends that they interrupted a long-going investigation and threatens to report the officers. And then, what does he do next?
I'm gonna give you a break. In fact, I think we can handle this internally. Give me your home phone, just in case I need it.
555-1834.
Hey, you want my number? It's 839. Yeah, I'll figure that.
And his character is now fully summed up. We know everything we need to know about him. It turns out that the top secret and revolutionary car turbocharger has been stolen from Japan, and the man who stole it shows up in Detroit to sell it, and ends up running into very good character actors known for playing bad guys.
Civilized and behave. I don't get paid to be civilized.
Randall Tex Cobb is friggin' amazing.
You give us the prototype, and we don't drop you on your head. I'm bending over backwards here, to be fair. Hello? Mr. Oshima? Now, don't make me come up there.
And Tom Noonan is equally as awesome. The man has a heart attack as they interrogate him on where he hid the turbocharger. And speaking of actors known for their villainous roles, Chris Sarandon shows up as their boss and the film's lead baddie.
Get rid of the body, and then find the prototype. Search his hotel room, do whatever it is you have to do, but you better find it.
Yeah, you guys probably shouldn't upset this guy because it's a very good possibility that he is a creature of the night. Then Pat Morita's character Fuji Natsuo, a detective from Japan, arrives in Detroit on a top-secret mission to find the turbocharger, but not to let the Americans know because, you know, they are industrial rivals and cannot be trusted and all that stuff. Also, this theme score here is pretty fantastic. Tony and his partner show up to arrest a suspect named Winston, who gets the drop on them, but they use their quick thinking and acting skills to pretend that they don't have a warrant.
Oh, don't forget my phone book. It's got my lawyer's number in it.
Sure.
What's that?
It's a warrant. Forgot I had it.
Wait, his partner's Ernie Hudson and they are arresting some guy named Winston? Do I really need to make the connection here? Ghostbusters. The connection is Ghostbusters. Meanwhile, the goons are trying to hide their dead body in a junkyard when a security guard catches them, and they promptly shoot him, and it turns out that he is an ex-cop, an old friend of Tony, so of course that means Tony is now hot on the case. The clues lead both him and Fuji to a hotel room where they of course eventually run into one another.
Hey, with the monkeys.
And now the shenanigans begin. This leads to a little comical chase where Fuji almost escapes, but Tony manages to barely catch him. Tony brings him to the police station where they discover who he is, but he gives them a false story about money embellishment. Everyone falls for it except for Tony. They release Fuji and Tony follows him and tries to keep a close eye on his activities. This leads to Fuji sneaking into a car factory, and Tony uses his charm to get past the guards and bust Tony, which leads to my favorite line from the entire movie.
I tell you, rest on need-to-know basis.
Need to know? I'll tell you what I need to know. I need to know why I shouldn't put my foot up your ass.
Reason very simple. Most uncomfortable position for both parties.
I first saw this back in 1989, and still to this day, I always try to quote this line whenever I get the chance. Every time someone asks me why they shouldn't stick their foot up my ass, it just makes my day. This being the type of movie that it is, they both then reluctantly decide to team up to solve the murder, and Tony brings Fuji to his house.
What are you doing now?
Take off shoe. Show respect for house. You have pet?
I had a dog a couple years ago.
I think better I show respect for foot.
Moments like this is why I defend this movie. One person's trash is another cat's fantastic crap. Ow. Tony tries to get Fuji drunk to get information from him, but all he gets instead is comical hijinks, and the next day they go to a car show and Fuji encounters one of the goons.
Perhaps I can help you, Mr.
Johnson. Dwayne Johnson.
Why don't I get your number and we'll get back to you? Dwayne, is it okay if I call you Dwayne?
Dwayne Johnson. Wow, what a rock-solid name. They follow the goon to a bowling alley where Fuji gets stopped and questioned by the locals.
I want to know, when you guys gonna do something about the balance of trade?
You know, you brought those heavy tariffs on yourselves by dumping underpriced computer chips on the market.
That's right.
Obvious social commentary is obvious.
Hold on, just a minute. Everybody must understand, Japan is a very small country, and we only do what we can to compete in world market.
Yeah.
You know, this movie pretty much had its thumb on the pulse of the atmosphere between the two countries at the time. I've seen several reviews saying how this movie is pretty stereotypical and cliched, but there are several points in the movie that I think handled the current situation of the time with a bit of cleverness and satire. But sadly, for some reason, this always gets overlooked. Oh, and enough of that. It's time to get to the important stuff. A bowling alley bar fight.
Karate there! Just my luck, I get the only guy from Japan that doesn't know karate. Oh!
Not true. My brother not know karate either.
All those reviews I read called this out for being stereotypical and cliched, and yet the movie itself pokes fun at said stereotypes and cliches with good comedic flair. I don't understand people sometimes. They manage to locate the thug's house, and this is where Fuji learns some basic facts about America.
We must hurry. Neighbors hear alarm. Call police.
You know, in America, when people hear an alarm, they just yell, "Turn that shit off."
Hey, turn that shit off!
I'm sure that is less an American thing and more of a Detroit thing. Fuji then learns some other facts about Americans.
Jeez. Holy shito.
You think this guy was into home protection?
Oh, too many. God.
No, all Americans live like this.
Really?
Oh, sure, sure.
Okay, now that is indeed an American thing. The thug shows up and blows up his own house trying to kill the two detectives. They escape, but he continues after them, armed up the butthole.
Take this gun and cover me!
Come on! Japanese police, don't use gun! Our society
Shut up,
don't
get
allow!
out! Let me have it now! Just cover me!
Hey now, I've seen plenty of John Woo films. I know for a fact that's not true.
Jeez, haha. Interesting culture. You won't carry guns, but you carry grenades.
But remember, for some reason Jay Leno is embarrassed by this movie. They manage to use the grenade to blow up the thug and save their skins. They make their way to the villain and call him out on his evil doings. And of course he is a big important figure in the city. And they get into trouble, which of course ends with Tony being suspended and having to turn in his badge. And then they try to ship Fuji back to Japan, but he gets away and reunites with Tony to continue the investigation. The trail leads them to a gas station, where they find out the location of the supercharger, but that is when Chris Sarandon and his goons come in. They manage to escape with a pretty awesome car chase on a motorcycle. Normally, in 100 years, I would never imagine Jay Leno as an action hero, but he actually does a pretty good job here. The two make it to the car rental and find the car that the turbocharger is hidden in. They nab it and flee just in time for the bad guys to continue to give chase. That's right. The climax of Collision Course is a gigantic car chase, and a pretty darn good one at that. They wreck the car and flee down a long alleyway, but the villain shoots Tony in the leg, and then they both are sitting ducks as the villain races down the alleyway to mow them down. What is he doing? Whoa! Dang! Holy unplausible action scene, Batman! Well, we now know another way to kill a vampire. Decapitation by Pat Morita feat. Haha.
Is how they do it?
No, this is how they do it.
See you later, pal.
Sayonara, my friend.
These two had some pretty good chemistry here, and the two of them were pretty lovable and likable in their roles. The movie manages to be very entertaining and fun, even though it did run out of money. With the teaming up of a Japanese cop with an American one, this really is the 80s version of Rush Hour. And while the Rush Hour movies are a bit better, this one is still a pretty solid buddy cop action movie that really doesn't deserve the hate that it gets. Also, the plot of most action movies like this usually always involve either drugs, money laundering, or illegal gun shipping, but with the plot being about the theft of a super highly revolutionary turbo engine and having a pretty heavy car theme, this cliched buddy film manages to separate itself from a lot of the other movies of its genre and stand out as at least being a bit unique. I'd give Collision Course 6 hairballs out of 10. Well, defending so-called bad movies really makes a cat hungry. Time to go indulge myself with a bit of tuna and catnip. I keep a stash hidden away at all times, just in case for emergencies. Ow. Thanks for watching Fantastic Crap, and I will see you next time when I come back to defend another vastly underrated gem in need of a little tender love. Ciao! Indently? In what? Okay. The man has a heart attack as they enter him. Oh, wow, this got really dark and sick. Everyone falls for it except for Tony. They release Fuji, but Fuji? What? Hey now, I've seen plenty of John Woo films. I know no, I got that right, and then I blew it. What? They wreck the car and flee down a long alleyway. It's long alleyway. Ugh. These two had some pretty good chemistry here, and the plots of most of these movies like this usually always involve other drugs. Not other either. Also, the plots of most action movies like this usually always involve other either. It's either.